Hello everyone, welcome to the stream. So good to have you here. We got a bunch of stuff planned for today. There's a new Reaper update, and we're gonna check out the new time stretch mode at least. I haven't really gone through the changelog yet. I'm not gonna bore you guys with organizing the changelog in this stream, but one thing that I think is something we can see and hear and will be interesting is that ReaReaRea time stretch mode. Hopefully it's cool. I haven't tried it at all yet. Then we might get back to the wish list for Reaper 7 thread. We got through the first page 2 weeks ago, and I think that ended up creating a lot of good conversation. So I might go through page 2. I want to spend about 15-20 minutes going through the digital Synsations presets again. I tried one of the different synths in there and just kind of curate some presets. Then I'm thinking ChatGPT again. I'm going to put up a poll here. I haven't done a poll on a stream before. What is ChatGPT? ChatGPT is a OpenAI preview. It's like a chatbot. You talk to it, or not talk to it, but you type to it, give it a task, and using its knowledge base creates things kind of. So you can write YouTube scripts with it. You could come up with a premise for a show. You can answer questions in various coding functions. And somebody had implemented the ReaScript API into there along with SWS stuff. We looked at that last week. We got 3 scripts created and they mostly worked. But yeah, just kind of minimal effort. We just kind of did that while I was eating my lunch. I thought it was fun, but going back through the editing, there was a lot that I took out for the edited live stream. So it's a super interesting thing for me because while I know some stuff about ReaScript, whether it's plugins or video processor or creating actions for Reaper, it's stuff that I cannot like keep in my mind how to use it. Unless I'm learning it every day and practicing it, it's hard to keep these all the various concepts and the specific variations of code formatting that you need to remember. I'm not going to really remember that, so then it takes me like an extra hour to do anything because I got to go and research and refresh my mind on everything. I don't feel good about constantly asking someone like XRAIM or Christian Fillion from SWS and Repack to just make things for me every single time. ChatGPT is a way that, without bothering other people, I can create some ReaScripts real quick that mostly work. Well, I actually wanted to show you guys something. Last week, right after my stream, Leandro was live, and he made me something really cool. I gave him a coding challenge while he was live, which was to create a DVD screensaver inside of Reaper using the video processor. And so it took him about 40 minutes or something like that. And basically any image that you put on a track, it will move it around and bounce off of the frame of the window. And I used that with a little bit of post-processing to create my Be Right Back screen. And I think that's really cool. That's like all I've ever wanted. I think that's dope. That's awesome. Jerome, for the Reaper 7 wish list, the control surfaces having Reaper show which tracks are in focus would be great. Got to work around now, but should be built into Reaper. That is a good idea. That should be there. That's something that was in Pro Tools a long time ago. Something besides select a track, have something for like control surface active or something like that. When you have 8 tracks or 16 tracks in a big project, it is hard to find which one is active, or even with a single fader, because it doesn't necessarily have to follow track selection. Reaper got an update yesterday, 6.74, chunky update. As I was saying earlier, one of the main things that I want to look at today, without going through this full changelog, is ReaReaRea time stretch mode, which they describe as It uses randomized overlapping window and project resampling mode. Let's just take this. Default pitch shift mode. We're going to set this to ReaReaRea, the new one. And there are various options: normal fade, longer fades, tempo synchronized fades. Let's do that. Let's do like 16th note. Randomized percent or 0% randomized, various percents and different shapes. This tempo was 95. Yeah, let's just do nice even numbers here, and we'll stretch this out to 2x. That's a really weird mode. It sounds clean, but like wrong at the same time. Let's do a 16th note triplet. We looked at the tempo synchronized fades. That's cool that it can follow the project tempo. Let's do normal fades at default setting. Cool. Let's stretch that out twice as long again. Interesting. Okay, so that's a normal fade. Let's go with the shortest of the long fades. With just a little bit of reverb, that would be kind of cool. So now let's go to the longest of the long fades, 10,000 milliseconds. That's pretty weird. I want to check this out with some different like tones. And then we will stretch this double. Interestingly, it does not match the waveform anymore at all. Let's go back to normal fades and set randomization to 25%. Drop in a short hi-hat and we'll stretch this out so it stretched out to a full bar. Now that was random fade. Let's try a 16th note triplet. Fade with 50% random. That barely sounds stretched at all. So for like transient stuff, it seems to not really do anything. All right, so just for reference here, let's go back to Elastic Pro. How it would normally sound if you stretched it. Okay. And then if we go back to ReaReaRea, okay, it's on default. Yeah, I heard absolutely nothing from the hi-hat. A little odd. And 50% random. Then we've got different shapes. Let's try linear. Not sure I can really tell the difference there. Yeah, default definitely sounds best there. Well, let's just do like a dotted eighth note with 50% random. Now screw it, let's do 93% random. It's like almost like there's a chance for it not to be random. For anything that's like about a second long, it doesn't really seem to do anything. You know what? Let's go even further. So this is a rate of 0.125. And of course it's smeared and all that, but notice that there's still high frequencies. And if we just go to a normal mode like Sound Touch, like an old style resampling mode, it's actually like more glitchy, but actually retained the highs more than I expected. Let's change this to the fast mode. Pretty fun stuff. To be honest, there's so many options here, it's hard to even decide, like, what do you use? You can't go through all these options every time you want to stretch something. I think it has its uses. As the main benefit is that when it's doing that sort of choppy glitch thing, you do have the option of matching it to the tempo. I do only have the Valhalla free stuff, but plenty others who do the trick. Yeah, I really like Shimmer. Last week I was demoing that chorus plugin, which has a pitch shifter. That on top of another large reverb doing the modulation would be pretty cool, I think. It wouldn't like feed back into itself, but I think would still be add a lot of interesting movement and the pitch shifting. What if you took a impulse response or created an impulse response by stretching it with this mode and getting these sort of rhythmic stutters? That might be cool. And then create that as an impulse response. Apply that to an instrument in real time. I did not demonstrate changing the pitch, only the stretching. Kind of like it, but what does that even sound like compared to the normal like Elastic Pro? Actually, quite different. It's too bad it doesn't do format shifting, but it's still pretty cool. Yeah, that's cool. Let's do the tempo synced at 16th note and set the random to 68%, just random numbers. Vocal processing with this might be weird. Okay, so I got some sort of scream here. Okay, let's stretch it out to half. Does stretch everything? Play rate should work with that as well. So yeah, project play rate is another way that you could do it. You can hear it doing that choppy thing. Let's go down an octave. Yeah, pretty useful stuff. I'm doing the stretch, the default pitch shift mode, which just changes everything in the project, which can be overridden by here. You can override per item. It's also in repitch here or in retune plugin. I find it easiest to change it here for these demonstrations, but you could definitely change it per item and apply the different algorithms as needed. It was pretty cool to use the pitch shift to get sort of like a sped up tape effect. But not quite, because it's doing that stuttering thing. I like it, but I think we can move on to the next topic. Hi there, I wish you would do a tutorial on how to send and receive Sysex to and from hardware devices. Yeah, I don't think I've ever needed to. Off the top of my head, I don't know how to do it. And I don't know if I have any devices that respond to that. I've got some old effects hardware, but I don't have any like synths that I could do that with. You've probably seen that you can do some stuff with Sysex inside of the ReControl MIDI plugin. And there's an editor thing, and you can save and load stuff. There's that. I think inside of the MIDI editor, there is something. You can see that? Yeah. Yeah, there's a Sysex thing here. And if you double click, you can add something there. I don't think I have any devices that I can send or receive Sysex with. So it's probably going to be something that's at least partially dependent on the hardware you're using. If you were recording from a hardware device when it's sending the Sysex dump, you would have to, I think you have to be in MIDI record mode for that to work. Recontrol MIDI doesn't receive here, Sysex, but it can send something to something that's ready to receive it. Chris Norris is saying, I'm finally nearing the end of my Let's Try and Use Reaper on Linux experiment. Well, if you're ending the experiment, I guess you didn't like what you found, possibly. You know, maybe if you want to write about it, I have a blog that you could post something to help the community in that endeavor. I'd appreciate anyone wants to do guest posts on there. New to Reaper and mixing, thanks for the Fresh Start series. I have no audio interface and use headphones straight to the laptop. Any tips on audio device settings, ACO for all versus Wasapi stuff in Windows? I've pretty much always used a interface, although on my PC, I would use like a USB mic fairly often. Yeah, Wasapi device should be fine. ACO for all is if you want to try to get low latency. I think you're just kind of limited in what you can record without a mixer or something that allows you to do direct monitoring, that allows you to get a condenser mic in there. Definitely get an interface. It makes things a lot easier. Having a dedicated hardware volume control for your speakers, for your headphones, it's nice. Internal sound card will sound okay, but the main thing is it doesn't have all of the professional connections to connect to a guitar, to connect to monitor speakers, to connect keyboards and everything else that you need. Mini Fuse, yeah. Mini Fuse would be a good option of something that's pretty much new. That came out only last year, mid last year. I don't really want to recommend Focusrite anymore. I would rather recommend ReaReaRea, honestly. Better software bundle with those. Don't invite the entire Linux community to hate me. They should have no reason to feel self-conscious and feel defensive about what you have to say. You're just sharing your experiences. I've never had anything but positivity from the community. Yeah, there's a ton of audio interfaces for around $100. If you can go $250, then you get even better options. I had the original Focusrite Scarlett, and I liked it at first, and then going back to it a couple years ago, I was like, wow, this actually sounds terrible. Everything I play through it, like my mixes sounded worse playing through that than compared to the better interfaces that I had. And then they had the issue with the audio inputs being too much gain for any of my guitars, just at 0. So you have to go through a external DI box, and it's just a pain. If you're just starting out with mixing, check out my free course on reaper.blog. Check this out, free beginner mixing course. So, how to organize your projects, how to use the stock Reaper plugins, pretty much everything up to mastering, using everything stock with Reaper. This was made during Reaper 5, but it all still applies. It's all still good stuff. That's what I would recommend as the next step. Audio interface is a must, I think. Scarlett 2i2, I don't love it. It's okay. It was an important interface to come out when it did, because there was not a lot of affordable, kind of reliable USB audio interfaces at the time. There was some that were cheaper, but like would always break, or they're like completely plastic. Like some of the Behringer ones at that time were all plastic and wouldn't last, and they didn't make their own drivers. Personas had some around the same time that were all metal, but then they would do weird things like have the headphone jack on the back, which I didn't like. What was that? That was the audio box. They have a few different versions of that over the years, but I was familiar with that stuff since like 2006. Yeah, a Scarlett Solo is still a step up from your built-in computer sound card. You'll get lower latency without the crippling performance that using the ACO for All driver would give you. But I would rather get the mini fuse because it comes with a better software bundle. Am I waiting for a CSI update to do the X-Touch video? Well, I started that X-Touch video, or started planning for it when CSI 2 came out. I was going to have a guest post or a collaboration video about those changes, but CSI did not stop changing after that release, and it's just constantly a moving target. I have done X-Touch with CSI in a live stream the day that I got the X-Touch, but I just need to get organized on that. And I know that CSI 3 is just around the corner. If it was just stable and it doesn't change for a while, it would be easier to manage. It's great that it does for the users. It's really hard to document it with all the changes. Things that conflict, they implement something, take it away. Even like saying where to go download it is difficult because they have a GitHub, but they don't put the file to download on the GitHub. They just put the documentation there. Why? They need to get that stuff organized so then can document it. All right, so now we're going back to the Reaper 7 wishlist. We're on page 2, and we're going to check this out and discuss the various things that came up in this thread. FX container from Reflected. So this has been, this one feature request already has 29 pages of comments. It could contain any effects chain as a single effects instance. This would provide oversampling for the entire chain, be useful for mixing effects chains for individual tracks, easier organizing of effects chains, especially when multiple effects are used as one effect. The oversampling move group of effects up and down the effects chain can be made easier. So basically it's like one plugin that can load an effects chain and probably would have things like series and parallel chains and stuff like that. I don't know what to think of that. I would definitely use it if that was there. But for the plugins that have things like that already, I actually don't tend to use them. So something like Snap Heap, I'm actually a little less likely to use that, even though it has all the modulation and all these different things, than the individual effects. But I'm not doing purely electronic experimental music where that is like my way of thinking for mixing a song. It's that sort of stuff becomes a distraction, and it's less focused on what I need to do. Personal opinion on that. Separate setting for block size when rendering stems or freezing tracks. Could see this coming in handy for very specific cases. I believe we actually do have this. So we've got block size to use when rendering. The default's going to be blank, but I've always put in 1024. Oh yeah, if it's blank, it will be whatever your audio device is set to. So then sometimes things will change, but I like to use 1024. This number may affect the render speed. If you want to eliminate that possibility of your live mix sounding different than your rendered mix, that's something to look at. Playlists, like in Pro Tools, I think we discussed that before. Fixed effect slots, quick swipe comping, like in Logic, session view, clip launcher view, like in Ableton, VST picker, like in FX Studio. I don't want to live in a world where every DAW is exactly the same and has the exact same features. There's a lot of smart features and people working at these various companies. I don't know why there's so much competition when it comes to DAWs. It's like, it's just a tool that we get to make music in or experiment in. And like having them all the same, like what's the point? That's my grumpy 2 cents on that topic. There are certain things that definitely Reaper's missing, and it would be nice to have various things. Okay, so we need playlists, but right now we can comp. We have the take system. A new take system is in development. We have unlimited tracks. Playlists was a great workaround for a limited number of voices and tracks in Pro Tools, where you could have lots of variations of the audio on different playlists within a track, but only one of them could play at a time. Over the years, they developed a way to manage that. I think it was Pro Tools 7 came up with a great comping system for that. Maybe it was Pro Tools 8, but that wasn't there from the start. They don't have any way to edit takes like we do in Reaper. They don't have pre-edit positioning, for example. So like we'll get one unique feature, but then it's required to have the exact same feature as some other DAW. Playlists, it would be nice just to keep variations of what's on the track. It keeps the track count down without having to like make a new track and mute the old one. I used to use the playlists in Pro Tools a lot. I liked them, especially after the updates. I guess it was in Pro Tools 8. And it was hard to go back to, or go to Reaper and learn the new system, but I did get used to it, and I did figure out all the tricks to making that work. I feel like I'm just as fast now. And I never need more than the final version of the comp. Figure out the best sounding version and move on. I never would go back to the previous playlists. Fix the effect slots. So Reaper always has this like infinite number of effect slots on a track, but it always slides up to the top, so you can't leave gaps between. Pro Tools only had 5 effect slots for the longest time, then they moved it up to 10, or maybe it was 6 and 12, but they don't have an unlimited number of effects. They have just those few slots. That works for them because they've got the dedicated like track view for that, which takes up a lot of your timeline view. People got used to that ability to bypass all of row 1 at the same time, or insert the same effect across every row 2 in their project, or to the selected tracks, which are actually really useful, good features. There's kind of workarounds for that in Reaper. We can keep an effect, like just a bypassed effect, a JS effect that does absolutely nothing, but pass through the audio to kind of reserve a certain slot for an effect. And then you select it and hit the shortcut to replace, or drag and drop into that effect slot. It's really not the same. There is a benefit to having this feature, but I don't think it's like have to have it. You can definitely mix without that feature. Session view and clip launcher. I don't know. I feel like there's so many third-party plugins that can kind of do that kind of thing. Obviously, Ableton and Bitwig have the best implementation of that. If you need that, definitely buy those tools because they're great. Bit of a rant. Turns out I did have some things to say about that. Granular stretch mode with automatable grain size. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the thing with the different time stretching algorithms. You have kind of just one setting and you can't automate it. I would definitely rather at this time use a VST to do something like that. I think ultimately it'll be more flexible than having on the track, but maybe that is something that they can actually do. Jason, the playlist in Pro Tools, it's like if you had like this is your vocal track and you had a bunch of different takes kind of as different tracks within it. And so if you have these 3 parts, you could kind of promote the thing up to the top. And then there was a empty area at the bottom where you could drag and kind of dump in things in the new list. And then you could, and really only like what was on the top was visible. And then there's some menu options for duplicating the playlist or creating a new playlist. So in the project, it would look like this. And then when you're comping, it would look like this, which was pretty useful. And there was like keyboard shortcuts and stuff to do things like rate the different takes, shortcuts to promote that thing up to the top playlist, renaming, probably exporting, and various things. So I know I just showed basically all those functions there, but it was a pretty smooth workflow in Pro Tools, and everyone that worked in a studio or went to audio school, that function was like just drilled into them. It's hard to go without that and learn a new way. Allow the internal routing of reverb to support true reverb with 2 stereo IR files. I feel like the whole reverb plugin needs to be redesigned. I think I talked about this last time. I find it to be a very clunky workflow. The default settings are always wrong. Like, I always end up having to pull the dry signal down. At least the default's to 0 latency. I never used to. And then it doesn't start with anything loaded in already. So it's always extra steps to get started. There's no built-in browser function. And then these also, the things like the reverb generator is just kind of crap sounding. I mean, Jason, you've got the kilohertz convolver, right? Or what's that thing called? Yeah, convolver. So this to me already feels more intuitive. It's an overall more compact, streamlined workflow. Can apply a fade in and fade out. Cool. We can stretch it. Awesome. We can trim the start and end. And if I click on no IR loaded, I see that it comes with a shitload of sounds. Plus, I can add my own location here easily. Yeah, I'll put in my guitar cabinets library. There. And it's just so quick. I've never used this plugin before. I already know it inside and out, basically. I can add a delay at the start. I don't see it at the top. It would be nice to see that reflected in the waveform here. Reaper's version of it does do that. Like, there's the pre-reverb, that's kind of the delay, but it's not tempo syncs. There's no way to stretch something and fit it into a certain number of, to fit the tempo. Trimming is another utility within here. And so we need to set the start position. You can't just drag it. So there's so many things that the Reverb plugin can do to improve the workflow. Kilohertz does a great job with their user experience for sure. So tone control, feedback internally, it's all great. Yeah, that's my first time using it, and it did exactly what I expected, and everything was in the right spot. I've got the convolver from Audio Thing. I don't have it installed right now. That one's also pretty good, although there were some bugs with it last time I used it. Sure, add true stereo, but also fix everything else, please. Show measures and beats in Retune Ruler. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. It should do that. Yeah, on the topic of that, make sure that Retune in manual correction, make sure that this scrolls and zooms the way that the timeline, the arrange view works. I don't know if that's the case. I think it follows the MIDI editor for the shortcuts. But why not just have that as a setting page in here? Why do we need separate controls for algorithms? Or why do the settings on the correction page affect the manual correction page? They're kind of separate. Reemote is a great intranet DAW control, or for intranet DAW control, but don't you think, I think I know what you're saying. It'd be great to have to send audio over the internet. Yeah, I think it should. Not there yet with it. They probably could, but I think they need a server to do that, or else some sort of peer-to-peer kind of thing. I feel like they could probably do it, but I think it's probably a matter of the cost of running the servers to do it. Right now, if you need to send audio from one person to another in near real time, I would suggest the Sonobus plugin. I think it's great. There doesn't seem to be a lot of features need to be added to Reaper 7. They should do a version that just improves the UX of what's already there. Yeah, I feel like Pro Tools did that 1 year. They just basically rewrote the whole thing, but didn't really add much new stuff. You can only do that one time. You can't you can't not add big new things every single time. Show receives in addition to sends in the MCP and TCP track inspector. Yeah, being able to see sends and receives would be helpful, although it may be confusing. Larger fonts. It just, yeah, in general, ways to improve the appearance easier. So if we're in the theme tweaker and we go to font, there's all these different fonts listed here, but it just says Walter font 1 through 16. And then there's no real indication of what those things are connected to. Let's say on mouse over, show which UI elements are using this font, because otherwise you have to extract the theme, actually look like line by line what things are using which of the 16 fonts. And usually a theme is only using like 4 of these, like various UI elements are using multiples of it. It's just way too much trial and error to make these changes. And there's no way to like reassign what function is using what font without actually editing the theme. So even the default theme doesn't use a different font for each of the UI thing. Kind of annoying. But there's a lot of things that people are asking for that already exist, or there's a pretty good third-party solution, or someone from the community has made some workflow for that already. And that's why I like going through this to answer those sorts of things. Sometimes I get the stuff wrong, but I see a lot of what's happening on the forum and in the community, so I can usually answer most of these sorts of things. There's a lot of little things that could be changed and a few big things. UI issues can only be partially corrected with the theme. Here's another one from me. Reducing the number of options in all of these different pitch shift parameters and stuff. This list here, I can't even show it all on screen. It's too big. There's like 400 combinations just for one pitch shift algorithm. Let's condense that into a few that actually sound good, or streamlined starting points for various things. Maybe have an advanced option to go through. But so on page 1, I said a better algorithmic reverb and delay. And this person was saying, reverbate sounds like the poor relation to the other replugs that are definitely some of the best plugins I've used. Relimit can stand alongside FabFilter, TDR, but reverbate, no. I suspect reverb design, the whole different level of DSP if you are to approach plugins like Valhalla. Yes, absolutely. Probably complained about this before. Even in my video, like the tutorial for reverbate, I probably complained about it. I provided a bunch of presets for it that I think sound pretty good, or the best that this can do. Most days I'd rather just use something else. Dampening is the wrong word. I complained about that before, like years ago. It's damping, not dampening, because it doesn't make it wetter. I think it's actually a diffusion control. It shouldn't be dampening, it should be damping, if we're gonna use that. It doesn't make it wetter. Initial delay. Why not have the initial delay set in BPM, right? Like tempo synced as well? How about filter steepness, or different sorts of filters for this? There's no control over the high pass and low pass curves, analog emulation, or anything like that. Room size, how about room shape as well? So having FL Studio has a great built-in reverb where you can have a cylinder up to a rectangle, and it just continually can morph between those different shapes. And it has a great UI for it. So for a stock reverb, this is an excellent one. It's got mid-side control. It has delay, which is tempo synced. It has modulation. It has diffusion, not damping. Oh, it has a damp control as well. They are different functions. Bass multiplier, and controls for dry, early reflections, and wet with a stereo width control. Yeah, this is the one from FL Studio. This has been around since version, I don't know what version they're on now, 20 something. I started using FL Studio in like 2005 or earlier, and they had a good reverb back then. They're on version 21 now, but I know that they jumped a few numbers. Last time we were looking at this, I mentioned some of the JS effect plugins for reverbs. Even like the reverb built into this, I would rather use. This has basically all the same controls as the built-in reverb, but it's just easier to use, just simpler. And I know that it sounds better. GUI overhaul for menus, preferences, floating windows. I like to see these elements become themable and consistent across Mac and Windows. So both OSs looked the same. Preferences in some windows would be less cramped. Bonus points if things like icons could be vectorized, but not a necessity. It's probably one of the last big features for me. I think, yeah, everyone agrees this is long overdue. I don't know if that's going to come in next update, though. Non-destructive parameter modulation for clap plugins. I don't actually know what that means. Something similar to swipe comping, ability to save different comps and recall and audition them in context, which is probably just the Pro Tools playlist. Yeah, kind of is. More consistency between MIDI editing and audio editing in range view and MIDI editor windows. Differences between how the lanes behave, which types of actions work in both, etc. Left drag on ruler to create time selection without loop points. That'd be a nice option to have. Toggle for input and output metering on input monitoring tracks. Consistency between effects browser display on Mac and Windows. Max lists in a single scroll list. Windows allows multiple columns with horizontal scrolling. I prefer the Windows approach. Yeah, that is one interesting difference there. The effects browser has a horizontal list with various columns, and Mac, you have to scroll vertically. The Exchange window makes poor use of real estate, in my opinion, not a high priority. The more plugins are wide than they are tall, so having tabs for each plugin in the chain along the top of the effects chain, like Studio One, would be better designed for both the functional and aesthetic perspective, in my opinion. Yes, that's a really good point. The effects chain window does take up a lot of space. I'm constantly having to toggle it open and closed. If this list could be made to just go like something that can be scrolled across the top, that would be improved for sure. I've already kind of condensed this as much as I can by taking away the comments box. Plugins are usually wider than they are tall. Number of screens and menus in Reaper shouldn't auto-close on click. If I'm in the action list and assign a key command, that command is in use, Reaper tells me it's in use, then closes the window. Let me choose a different one. Yeah, that makes sense. There's lots of weird little things that are probably just like they worked well enough or they didn't get much thought. I feel like a lot of the changelog for the 6.74 is a lot of those little things that little UI things, little reorganizations of things. Ability to see signal flow. I'd like to see the mixer merged with wire view with the best of both worlds in an easy-to-use workspace with embedded plugin UIs, VU, meters visible, but with modular connections. Unlike most of you, I'm not a musician. I create immersive 3D environments for relaxation and PTSD treatment. I have different needs. It's always interesting to see all the different uses people have for Reaper. Within game audio, there's dialogue editors, there's voiceover recording, there's the cutscene sound design, there's the composers, there's the in-game sound effects, ambience, all those stuff that can all be done in Reaper. There's people doing theme parks, using Reaper, creating immersive attractions, entertainment kind of spaces, things like that. For live sound, people will use it as the live mixer. People will use it for backing tracks and playing videos on stage. Wondering what your opinion on AI and future of music making. Like Google just released a bunch of DALL-E of music and Riff-Fusion, which already existed. I think it's interesting. There are a lot of uses for it where there was never a budget for creating music. The creative audio tasks or the technical audio tasks may not be a problem that needed to be solved, and that's where a lot of people have a problem with it. We don't want to see it being used instead of a sound designer for a game. We don't want to see an AI voice being used instead of a professional voice actor, even an amateur voice actor that's up and coming. They have to compete with an AI voice now. It could be really bad for the audio professionals if, let's say, the advertising executives just switch to using do-it-yourself AI tools instead of hiring professionals. Maybe some of the access to these things can exponentially grow the possibilities of what we can do with audio. There's lots of things that we just don't know are possible because we never thought of them before. It will be cool to see some previously impossible tasks being solved with machine learning and things like that. I don't think musicians are at huge risk of losing jobs, because probably the people that will switch to using, or that will use and rely on these AI tools, probably weren't going to pay a musician anyways. I kind of see the same thing with the portrait things. Some people that paint portraits were pissed off that their work was being used to train these AI tools, and then people can just put in their own photo and have it remade with various art styles trained by real artists. But I think the people that were doing that, or would pay for that, like $5 or something for the app, wouldn't have gone and commissioned a portrait anyways. The major companies will start using AI stuff. We explored this a little bit last week. We were talking about dBird, Isotope RX, some Adobe products. They're all using AI already. It does seem interesting that there's like, I think 4 audio related AI tools that came out just this week. That stuff's probably not for professionals, or it's not targeted to professionals using it. It's interesting though. Resolve Studio got an update for AI voice enhancer. It's basically black magic AI voice enhancer. It's not a bad time yet, but it could be. It very well could be really concerning. My vocal processing today uses this neural network noise reduction thing. You know, I'm already using some AI tools already. There's certain things AI tools are being made for right now that weren't problems that needed to be solved. Creativity isn't a problem that needs to be solved. Like, we don't need more tools making or on hold music, really. And I feel like that's the quality that we're going to get out of it for a little while. AI tools to cure cancer. That's what we kind of need to do. It's moving really fast. I have a hard time keeping up with all the different things. But in terms of AI stuff we can use today, I plan on doing some ChatGPT in a little bit. Back to the list. Input channel signal auto detection. Having a signal in your interface ready for recording but not knowing which channel it is, auto detection tells you. That is kind of cool. MPL has a script for that. Input audio check selected track. Somebody mentioned something in here and the MPL made it, what, a day later? Yeah, a day later he had already scripted it. That's cool. Way of sharing individual toolbars. Oh yeah, toolbar sharing is a pain. And preset management is a pain as well. Join my community on YouTube by becoming a member today. As a member, you'll get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes content, early access to new videos, and the opportunity to interact with me in special member-only comments. Click the join button below and let's take this journey together. Only some of that is true. What you actually get is emotes in the live streams or in regular comments, and you'll see your name on the thank you page for each of the regular channel videos. But it's $5 a month, and I'll be doing these streams every week. Hopefully that's worth $5 to you. Streams plus the stream recaps every week, plus regular videos every week. It's got to be worth $5. So I'd like to hire an editor this year. It'll help a lot with the stream recaps, but just in general, having some money to go around to pay Jason, our mod, would be great. Send him a pizza or something once in a while. That's where that money's going to go. Channel memberships will pay for things that we do on stream. It's $5, it supports the stream. It'd be great to have some money to throw around and do some cool stuff on the stream in addition to actually taking the load of editing off my plate. All right, so back to ChatGPT. We made 3 different scripts last week before the site crashed. The first one was to select every other item within the time selection. It mostly worked, and I could modify that further to just get rid of the edge case weirdness. Second thing, a script that applies a 10 millisecond fade to every selected item. Super easy one, and basically worked first try. No, it worked second try, I think. First, it was trimming all the items down to only 10 milliseconds long instead of applying a fade. I told it that, it corrected it, and then it worked. That could easily be modified to any value there. So it could be 10 milliseconds in, 50 milliseconds out, whatever. You can even make it prompt for the amount of fades. Not super useful because you can do that in the item properties already, but if it's something that's repetitive, it's worth having that as a script. And it's not something that can be done through normal Reaper custom actions. Third thing was to scroll to the end of the selected items. As we were iterating on that, the site went down, but I tested it the other day and it did actually work. So here's a workflow that's frequent for me. So let's say I've got some items here. I'm gonna spread them out a little bit. Let's say I've got these items here and I want to kill all the gaps in the items. You know what? I think I've already made this script. Remove gaps between items. Yeah, I did already do this. Let's do this another way. So instead of removing the gaps, let's set the gap between items to exactly 1 second. We can do this with an SWS function, which is this button here, time interval 1 second, but it brings up a window and we have to confirm that and set it for item start or item end every single time. And so I think that's a good way to start with ChatGPT today. Please write me a Reaper script to set the gap between items to exactly 1 second. Or exactly, let's do 1000 milliseconds. And it's off. Here's an example of a Reaper script to set the gap between items to exactly 100. I meant to do 1000, but it's okay. Set the gap between items to exactly 100 milliseconds. Set the number of selected items using the item count selected media items. Loop through each selected item. For item 1, item get selected media items. If it's not the last item, calculate gaps between 2 items with positions, set the gap to 100 milliseconds, update the arrange view. Interesting. So it's going to do this. It's not going to do it step by step. It's going to actually do them all simultaneously and then update the arrange view. This script assumes that the selected items are sorted in the order they appear in the arrangement. Awesome. So this seems like it's going to work first try. Next step is new action, new ReaScript, and we'll call this AI set gap for items to 100 milliseconds. Paste, Command S to save. And I can see that these items have already shifted. So that's 100 milliseconds. Yeah, that seems like it worked. First try. And we can duplicate this item, or make a copy of that. New, ReaScript. Oh, that's load. New, ReaScript. And we set this to AI set gap for items to 1000 milliseconds. And then paste, and we'll set this to 1000. And where's the actual value? Wherever it says 100, we're going to set it to 1000. Length plus 0.1. Is that where it's set? Please modify this script to use the number in the script name as the gap value. We'll see if that works. But I want to see how it does with actually getting the name of the, or taking the name of the script and applying the number that's in the name to the actual value. And then we can just basically duplicate it, rename it, and done. For this script to work, the script name should be in the format set gap to blank value milliseconds, where value is the desired gap value in milliseconds. For example, if you want to set the gap to 200 milliseconds, the script should be named set gap to 200 milliseconds. So that is exactly what I wanted. Now, it doesn't need the exact name, or is it only searching for the number? So I've got 1000 milliseconds in the name. So I'll select some items, and I will start that script. That seems like it worked. That's really cool. The time for that is 1 second. Cool. So that's something that's really easy to kind of to modify there. Let's go to load. We'll set this to duplicate. Even though I spelled it wrong, set gap for items to 2000 milliseconds. And while I'm here, I will rename this. So the gap right now is 0. We'll set this to 1000. We'll set this to 2000. Yeah, super useful to have presets for these sorts of things, in my opinion. Use this a lot for game audio stuff, sound effects editing, field recording, things like that. All right, so we've got kind of a script template that can be modified just by changing the name. This is not a new idea. Locasana has done that a bunch of times with his set selection by name. Select tracks by name. He's got a tool that it's a script that makes scripts with these various parameters, and it just names it. If I did edit on the strings one, the main thing that it's matching is the name. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in there, but essentially it's just duplicating itself. Lots of people are doing that sort of function. Great way to iterate on things without making like a complex UI. Please write a Reaper script to create a send from the first selected track to the second selected track using channels 3 and 4. We'll see if this works. Is there a script to consolidate all the tracks that are edited into a continuous file at once after editing? I would use the glue function for that. The glue action will do that. There is also the consolidate function from the file menu. There's another way to do it. Glue will take these and do that. But if you have nothing at the very start, what I would often do is just hit record for a second, just get some silence, and then glue it. and then it'll work. Interestingly, it only did some of it as audio, but I think you're talking about audio files and that will work. But that consolidate function will also work. Here's an example of a REAPER script to create a send from the first selected track to the second selected track using channels 3, 4. I don't think that is right. That looks like input 3 to output 4. No, receive on channel 4. Well, we'll see. I don't think that's right, but we'll try it. This did create a send to track 2. Unfortunately, audio channels are incorrect. I think it's just my wording for that. Source channel should be 1. I need to look up how to do this. REAPER set track send info value media track integer category integer send ID X string param name number new value. How would I do 3 and 4? No, it is doing stereo, isn't it? New value is 3. A value of 3 equals, no, I guess it should be 1. Right? And this should be 2? Let's try that. 2 tracks selected, start. This creates a send from input, no input, to 3, 4. All right, so that's a start. That's partially right. What if we make this 0? That creates no. Okay, let's make this 2. I don't know how to make it like 1 and 2. Destination channel is right, but how do we set this? And 124 equals mono, -1 for none. Please modify so the sending track channels are 1 and 2, and destination track channels 3 and 4. We'll see if that works. I don't think that one really worked. Maybe something that resets all track parameters to default. That might be useful. Or it's reset height, set pan laws. I think there's each thing individually. So the default color. Let's try that. Write a REAPER script to reset all track parameters to default values. This includes volume, panning, stereo width, mute, solo, and color. Delete all sends and envelopes. So let's start off by making a track dirty. Mute, solo, there's sends, there's a couple sends, and panning and width. I do have a workflow for this already. It's called full mix reset visible tracks. Actually doesn't clear mute and solo, but probably should. Actually didn't do width either. It's still going. Nearly done. Volume, pan, width, mute, solo, custom color, remove sends, delete envelope points. It did not delete solo. Okay, we need to also do the volume envelope. Make sure that that works. And set the panning and send, and then mute and solo. Run. This did not reset the solo or the envelope points. All right, let's give it a try. Okay, so that's working except deleting the envelope points. Deleting the envelope points first, then resetting other parameters. What are we building? Right now we're doing a script that will reset a track to default. It should do volume, pan, mute, solo, width, color, sends, and envelope points. All right, so we got an update which should delete the envelope points first, and that's where it was running into issues before. So we'll just dirty up this project a little bit and add some envelope points. and then replace the contents of this thing. It's still not able to grab the envelope points first. Please remove everything for deleting envelope. This seems to work except for that one function, so we'll just skip it. There is another script that can be run to delete everything. S&M, remove all envelopes for selected tracks. I know that this works, but there's a prompt. If I put this into the script, then it would have to be after it refreshes the UI. So this should be everything except for envelopes. All right, volume, pan, width, send, color, mute solo. Can I do this on multiple tracks? Yes. Seems to do just select a track and does all the parameters. So we can add in the phase and record enable and monitor enable. I'm not smart. I can just find broken things. Well, I don't know how to do this stuff. All right, we'll give it some praise this time. This is great. Please also reset record enable, monitor enable, and phase invert. That should be everything except for the envelopes. Also set the track automation mode to trim read. Let's try that. This saves us like having to bother someone on the Reaper forum or Leandro or someone to make every little script that, or workflow ID that we have. This is free and simple enough that most people can do it even without knowing the Reaper functions. This knows more than me when it comes to this stuff, so it's been pretty helpful. I bet there's probably a different function that just does everything all at once, but this seems good. I did set it to read mode, which just means we need to change the auto mode probably to 0. Okay, so there's one mistake here. It does seem to do all tracks. So if I just take tracks 2 and 3, they're selected, and then run this. Oh, well, I need to make a change on, make these ones different, run this. It's resetting all. So we just need to tell it to please modify to only do this process on these selected tracks. I don't know how long we've been on this particular task, but this would be something that it would require me like spending a ton of time researching all the various functions. A lot more trial and error than this, just getting the formatting, documenting it correctly. I already have a function that does this thing using several other functions that are already built. Yeah, I try to be polite to everything, sentient or not. Why not? Let's make a little correction there. I don't say please and thank you to Siri because Siri is not as intelligent as this. Notice that I don't have to input the original command each time, getting Siri to expand on some idea. If you say like, show me, is a hot dog a sandwich? It might provide a link and not just tell you why. But you get an answer and then you ask why. With Siri or Alexa, it's not going to do it. With this, it can. Long due for an update. A lot of people have switched to this for, answering questions. Even though it doesn't have access to the internet and its learning database training set only goes to 2021. It's pretty good, pretty useful. So I'll only do this on the first 2 selected tracks. And looks good. This 3rd track wasn't touched. Running again, does work. All right, so I would call this one done Be kind to the robots now. They may spare you when they take control. Sure. Should we keep going? Is this interesting? Or should we move on? My next thing was UVI Digital Synsations, just doing something music related for a little bit. Going through some presets there. I think this was like $10 or free maybe a few years back. There was a store that used to do no-brainer deals, and a lot of people got a bunch of decent stuff and some bad stuff for real cheap. I think this is one of those. Yeah, I like it. I think it sounds good, but I can't see myself using it in like the synthwave kind of context. We'll go 15 minutes and we'll stop. It does kind of look like a Reaper version of a DX7. This is a Ensoniq VFX. Uses a wavetable like synthesis method similar to that of the PPG wave. 6 waves can be combined and layered into a single patch, which feeds an impressive array of dual multi-mode filters, 3 11-stage envelopes, an LFO, 24-bit effects processor, parameter mapping allowing 15 sources to be used for an extremely complex modulation. So what we're looking at here is one of the synths included with the Digital Synsations bundle from UVI Workstation. It was updated about a month ago. I've had it for several years. I mean, it looks like the 90s synthesizer. So if we look for the Ensoniq VFX, it should be kind of similar looking. But yeah, it's like buttons, no sliders. So actually this UI is nicer than the actual one. You have a VFX? Nice. I'm just looking for some inspiring sounds. Like I should be able to like instantly think, oh yeah, I could probably write a song about that or with that. I just want stuff that's like in the genre that I'm going for. Not specifically trying to write anything right now. I bookmarked this one. Why did I like that one? Or maybe it was high notes. Yeah, it's actually kind of good. I don't think it was me that told you about droplets. It was probably Reaper tips. Yeah, droplets is a cool plugin that I have not used at all. I've just seen Alejandro's video about it. Yeah, I like this one a lot. Now that probably makes more sense, what I'm doing. This is one of those situations where it sounds good, but somebody's got to have already used that as it is. I do like this one a lot. With like a low octave, just playing the root note. Like a simple, like a Juno or something underneath. It would be very cool. That's why opening the soundware in Falcon is great, because you can really tweak the patches. Yeah. I'm going to bookmark that one. I think that is super solid, and I like that it doesn't start out with full range. I almost never use the bandpass filter. It's high pass filter. For synths, I usually use the low pass filter, but I think that was a really good use of it because it makes room for. It sounds like Bloodsport. Yeah, well, I was thinking like something kind of post-apocalyptic, but low budget. I've definitely seen Bloodsport once. I don't know if it's one of the best movies of all time. Pretty good. All right. So that's been about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes. But yeah, lots of good stuff in there, actually. I was a little worried because the newest presets, I think, in this pack, or I believe that with the update, they put in these new presets. I didn't like most of these, but then there was tons of good stuff here. So I'll have to come back to that one. And yeah, there's still the other 3 synths. There's the photo Jason sent. I love this sort of display. The Speak and Spell had a similar display. And I always loved seeing how they glitch when you short circuit them. I think that's actually where we're going to end today. That is 3 hours and 16 minutes on stream. So we're going to end it for today. Thank you all for coming to the stream, participating in the chat and everything. Thanks for the super chat. And yeah, consider being a channel member to support what I do here with the Reaper blog, especially with the live streams. We're doing 50 streams this year, and this is the 5th one. In addition to the streams, every stream will be edited down into about an hour and a half long video. That's it for the stream today. Thank you so much. I'll see you next. Next, we've got the Reaper update video coming up, and I'll see you next Friday in the next live stream. See you guys later. See you guys later.